know how much he's paying for this presidency if he gets elected to? $600 million to get a $400,000 a year job. Now why would anybody do that?
I don't know.
Because they want to be the best there is. That's all there is to it. That's why he's spending $600 million of our money to get a job that we can pay $400,000 a year to do it. But he worked hard to get that. He's not to worry anymore. But it didn't work that way for me. That wasn't the way I got started. The way I got started was just working hard and recognizing you had to do it. Raised a family of 14 kids. And my father, I don't think, ever made $100 a week in his life. And he was a minister. And he put most of that back into the church when he was trying to get other people to contribute. He'd be the first one to put some money in the basket so he could hope to influence the people out in the audience. And usually he was the only one making the contribution. So we didn't, and I told him yesterday, and I won't tell this, I'm not going to tell him anymore about this other part about my having 14 kids. We moved from place to place to place, my father being a home mission minister. We just moved one town, stayed there till the church was starting, and then moved to another town and started another new church. So everybody's any money. And especially when you got 14 kids and you're moving them with you every time you go, you don't live a life of affluence. And I told him yesterday, and I promised I'd never tell him again since last time I ever tell him, I never slept alone until I got married. Now you know why I quit telling it. I got to explain it to a lot of people, especially. But nevertheless, I just want to get away from West Virginia. And that's where I live, in Cabin Creek, West Virginia. And for those of you who are basketball fans, the only two famous people in Cabin Creek, West Virginia is me and Jerry West. For those of you who know anything about the NBA. But I wanted to get out of there and I joined the Air Force because they said they'd pay me $22 a day once a month. Back in 1948, 49. $22 a month, folks. Right? But let me tell you, that's more money I could earn in West Virginia, so I took the job. I signed up to join the Air Force and go to Korea and stay for 2 years. And regretted never met it. I signed that contract without having my lawyer look at it. But I went in and spent that time. What I learned over in Korea was if you're going away to fight for your country and you're fighting for the things that all the people are fighting for in Afghanistan and Iraq now, that when they come back, you ought to take advantage of the free enterprise system. If anybody ought to do it, they appreciate it. I heard you say, well, good, and how much you enjoy serving your country and being in the Navy. And he'd like to make more money, but nevertheless, he's like this, so he's here to make the money. And then he can serve with salute you every time he walks out of the meeting with another stack of money. But I wanted to stay, wanted to take advantage of the free enterprise system. So I came back to the United States when I got out of the military after 4 years. I decided I was going to go in business myself. Well, the only thing I knew was working on airplanes, so I thought, well, I'll get a job, open a service station, work on cars. Well, I talked to my pastor, I talked to my family, I talked to all my friends, talked to everybody I knew, and asked them their advice on me going into the service station business. And every one of them said, you got to be crazy. One on every corner, gas is selling for 28 cents a gallon, they give you a set of dishes if you come in and buy it. That's how desperate and how competitive the business was. But I didn't listen to them, and I'm glad I didn't. Because I got into business and I found out it wasn't that the business was competitive. It was those guys running that service station were happy to do what they're doing. And they just kept on going. What I did, I came back with an enthusiasm that I said, when I go into business myself, I'm going to work just as hard, run whatever that business is, and I worked in the Air Force. And that was get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and work till 11 o'clock at night or midnight or whatever it was, particularly in Korea, and a lot of 24 and 36-hour days. Well, if you work that hard in any business in the world, how can you not succeed? That's right. Because you're competing with people who won't pay that price. They'll do all the other stuff, they won't pay the price. So I ran a service station like I ran my job in the Air Force. I did whatever it took to get the job done. And people came from miles around. Because we did it with enthusiasm, we did it with excitement, they passed 100 service stations to drive out to my service station in Beaver Creek, Ohio, to be able to buy gas and tires and stuff and pay the same price they could have got it for on all the service stations they passed. You know what they came to be? How many of you like to be around enthusiastic people? How many of you hate to be around negative people? Well, most of the people you're dealing with are negative. How many waitresses are negative to you when you're spending your money? And so anyhow, we were enthusiastic, we were excited. And if I'd have known then what I know now, I know what my mission would have been for that gas station. Because I learned from the Attorney General of Oklahoma a statement that said, if you'll catch on fire with enthusiasm, people will come from miles around just to watch you burn. And that's exactly what they were doing. They were coming out to watch us burn because they wanted to see some of that enthusiasm. I did that for 14 years and made a good living doing it, but you can't make much money selling gas at 28 cents a gallon. I don't know if you can make it at $33 a gallon or $4 a gallon, but sure couldn't at 28. But I made a good living because of hard work. And the guy pulled in the station one day and he says, who owns this place? He saw I had to have a round clock protecting traffic in and out, and more excitement. And the guy says, who owns this place? And I said, I do. And he said, how would you like to double or triple your income? I said, who do I have to shoot and kind of stay out of jail? That's all I care about. And he said, well, John, that's what everybody asks. I said, what is it? He said, that's what everybody asks, but after they see it, they say it's completely different than anything they've ever seen before. And he said, that's where you're not like show up to this afternoon in a restaurant someplace, and they're going to call me. Well, 10 minutes later, I'm still saying, come on, Paul, what's this all about? And he said, John, that's what everybody asks, but after they see it, they say it's completely different than anything they've ever seen before. That's the reason I'd like to spend a few minutes with you and show it to you. I finally agreed. I met him in a coffee shop at 3 o'clock that afternoon, and he showed me an introduction to the insurance industry. He wanted to hire me as an insurance agent. Let me tell you what my impression was of insurance agents. Why would I want to be one? They'd all hung out at my service station. I was making more money than they were making. The reason they weren't making any money is hanging out at my service station. Well, I decided if I'd go to work in the insurance business after he showed that, but let me tell you how he showed me the business. And I hope all of you will learn from this, all this new opportunity you got to take this out and run with it. What Paul Falk did with me, we were sitting there in that coffee shop by 4 o'clock. We'd had all the talk we could have, and he showed me, introduced me to the business. He said he had some friends we could go talk to. And I said, sure. So I got on a payphone. They had payphones way back then in 1961. But we had called payphone, and I got us 3 appointments to go see some friends of mine that afternoon and evening. We went out and sold, and Paul agreed he'd split the commissions with me and give me half the commissions he earned on the business, where he was training me how to do it. My half of the commissions by 9:30 that night was $1,250. You know how long you have to work pumping gas to make $1,250 in one day? And how much snow you have to shovel off the driveway when you live in Beaver Creek, Ohio? All that stuff. And I thought, man, this is business for me. If I was going to work from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock every night running the service station to make that kind of money, how much could I make in the insurance business? So I just went out with that same enthusiasm, the same work effort, same everything, and I started talking to everybody. You know, people didn't know the insurance business like it was, and I didn't have any trouble recruiting people in the insurance business. When I was selling, I wasn't selling insurance. Right. I was selling the business opportunity to earn $1,250 the first 3 hours of business. But I had to go do it. You have to go do it. You want people to do that. Today, I still go out and preach it, and only learned it one afternoon in Beaver Creek, Ohio, that if you just go out and go to work, I'll show you how to make big money. Well, I don't think anywhere you heard Ian Harlan, the Sunsider, or anybody else saying up here about this stuff, that's going to do anything for you if you don't go out and show it to people. Because it absolutely won't work if you just keep it in your briefcase. But I got introduced to the insurance business. What did I know about the insurance business? I found out 3 months after I got into it, you're supposed to have a license, first of all. I didn't know you had to have a license. I didn't have to have a license to pump gas, but I had to have a license to sell insurance. And I was making money to what's here right now. So I didn't know that. But anyhow, I went to pass my insurance exam finally. And the strange part about this is, my only education was what I learned in 12 years of school, public schooling, 4 years in the Air Force, and 13 years running the service station was all I knew about running an insurance company. You know what happened to me in 18 months after I got in the insurance business? They made me president of a life insurance company. With no qualifications except one, most important one, I made things happen. I was enthusiastic, I recruited people who were enthusiastic, and the companies grew and became big insurance companies. I didn't know what everybody done it. I found out that most insurance agents were still hanging out at service stations, so there wasn't any competition for the real people out there. So anyhow, I did that and had a very successful career in the insurance business, 17 years. I moved from being president of a company in Ohio, a company in Louisiana, offered me a better deal. I moved down here and take over their company. I did that. Then 5.5 years later, a company offered me a deal to move to Oklahoma in 1972, take over an insurance company there.